Ben, is there a sense of excitement? I mean, the exhibitions are great and everything, but when it counts, and there's got to be a different kind of mojo right now with your team, knowing that you're just a couple of days away from kicking off the season.
Yeah, the guys obviously are hungry for the regular season to start. It was definitely a blessing for us to play two really good teams, and now we're ready for a regular season to start. And what a great start against a Missouri team who has a huge chip on their shoulders. So we understand what's coming in the building as well on Monday.
What's the biggest takeaway you had? You played two different teams, two different styles. What's your biggest takeaway from playing with two different positions?
Yeah, against Carolina, it was more about execution because they executed really well. You know, Elliot Cadeau controlled the game. They were really solid on their communication. They played the typical shell defense. Against Alabama, they were dynamic, fast, strong, explosive, and they did what you call peel switching, which was just random switches, and it just made us have to think even more. So to be able to play those different styles in two back-to-back games was really good for us to put on film and see where we were.
You know, obviously the three-point shooting has been a big topic of conversation. Like they were two exhibitions only shot 60%. Obviously there's Colby, but who else do you think there is that could perhaps step up and fill that void?
Well, obviously P.J. Carter, we got to get him going. We got to get Kobe, continue to get him looks. But Tyrese Hunter, looking for him to shoot it better. You know, those three guys. And then Nick taking, you know, as long as we take good shots and we miss good shots, then we can feel like those will drop. We just got to stay away from what we would call bronze level shots where they're not good looks. They're one dribble in the shot, two dribbles in the shot. Taking a shot too early in the shot clock, that's not favorable for us. So I think those guys really have to step up. We shoot more than anybody. I talk about that every year. I'm really big on shooting. And when you get into these arenas and these other places, you just got to lock in and knock down your shots.
Is it a concern, Penny, as you start a new season?
Yeah. Yeah, you can say it's a concern because we didn't shoot it well in the first two games. You know, new team, don't know the forum at all. So it's like it's a road game for them because they're coming from different walks of life, and we got to get in there more. We can't get in there when we want to get in there because they have all these other, you know, things going on in there. And so when we get in there, we just gotta get as many shots up as we can.
With Dane Danger, with what he did in the second half against Bama, how much more intentional do you think y'all have to be about getting him the ball and feeding him with a player like that?
Yeah, no, that's a priority. You know, I talked about that afterwards. Played 17, 18 minutes. And that was Musa's first game, so I just kind of held him out so we wouldn't have any injuries because the big game is Monday, but it's very intentional. Teams are going to double-team him, and he has to make plays, but one-on-one, we expect for him to be dominant.
What have you liked matchup-wise with Dane in terms of the other big on the floor? What have you seen with your offense with Nick on the floor, with maybe Musa? We saw him and Musa together a little bit in the Alabama game. What have you liked so far that you've seen matchup-wise with those?
Well, with Nick on the floor, it's spacing. He's going to have the spacing he wants because Nick can hit a spot-up three. We have not put him and Musa together in a practice yet, but I wanted to see one possession, and it failed. But we really worked on it today to just have those two guys out there to just start the ball rolling. That will bring high-lows and have us an advantage. One of those guys will have an advantage with their size. And then offensive rebounding, which we had 23 offensive rebounds. That'll give us an advantage on the offensive rebounds as well.
When players transfer in, it's a two-way street. They have to learn about you.
Mm-hmm.
But how long will it take you to learn about what they can do for the better?
Well, I think that's what the summer is for. I think I've learned a lot about these guys from the summer, just understanding who they are, what their mental capacity is on retaining, where their hearts are, the care factor, and who they are as a basketball player on both sides of the ball. So I think I kind of have a good idea of who's who. We haven't been able to mix guys as much because we had a ton of injuries during the summer. Even though the team was together, like Musa didn't really practice much because he was injured. Tyreek, same thing, now ankle. Even Tyrese missed a couple of days. So it's like, and Dane missed some time. So we just got to get the combos down with who's going to be able to play well together.
Coach, you went the tough route with the exhibitions this year, taking on Alabama and North Carolina. Mizzou kind of goes a bit of the easier route with Lincoln, but what were you able to see from them kind of on film, even though, you know, exhibition?
Yeah, I don't look at anything as being easier because this team they have a chip. You know, when you have a losing season and you don't win a game in the SEC, that brings on the entire summer of just anger and just trying to build toughness, so mentally and physically. So as those guys who come back this year, who've added some better, some more talent. I would say more talent. It's going to be a hard game. We're not overlooking anybody. Every game is hard on this level. That's what I've realized, whether at home, whether pressure's on you or on the road, when you got to get a road win in someone else's building. So I stay mindful of that. But, those two games definitely helped us understand who we were. But we can't go and look at Missouri and go, oh, they're not Alabama, they're not North Carolina. That's not our mindset. Every game is going to be hard, but we can dictate who we are every single night.
What have you learned about them from the exhibition game that they had?
That they have resiliency and toughness. Like, they don't give in and they don't give up. In the first game, I didn't pressure. Second game, I did. The pressure looked great, and really excited about that to add some more things, and that we can bond together when things get tough.
It's easily, you put a crazy competitive non-conference schedule together. You've done that in the past. You guys had success last year. But in the conference that you're in, and you talk about it's a good conference, but nationally, it's not looked at that way. How important, even maybe more so than last year, is to win, do well in this non-conference portion of the season, to kind of get your name out there, knowing that there's not going to be a Houston or something like that you can get during the conference?
Yeah, that's the pressure within itself because of how they recognize our conference. And it's just, I know what it is about our conference is a bunch of transfers from high major that are looking to put numbers up in our conference, and these teams get transfers from good schools. And when it gets to the name on the jersey of the school, the guys that I have overlook that, and then you end up getting beat. So you'll play 5 times harder against Alabama or North Carolina, but when it comes to another team, a team in our conference that you really don't know much about, you think it's just supposed to happen. So with them not respecting who we are, it does put pressure to try to get a big win, to get the eyes on you. But I think our conference is more important, because if you lose games, then they drop you regardless. So I think that I've learned to say, let's be the best team by January, February, and not be the best team in November, because you're trying to build up to be great, because you still need to win conference regular season, and it makes it easier if you win conference tournament. So at the end of the day, my mindset has changed on that. I love the non-conference to show who we are, but you still want to be the best team by January, February.
For your resume, when it comes to March, a win against a UConn or an Ole Miss, those are main programs that you're going to get an opportunity to play against. So whether, I know your focus is on the end of the year, but now as this non-conference starts with an SEC team, in the back of your head, you're like, look, people know who these teams are that we're going to play in the first month.
Yeah, and then sometimes it works against you. But to answer your question, yeah, I think it's great to put one of those under your belt, that you beat a highly ranked team in the regular season, like we've done with Houston and like we've done with other teams. And then the flip side of that is, if you don't win those games, then you definitely got to go in the conference and take care of business and show that you are one of the most dominant teams that could make a round NCAA tournament. And that's just where it is.
Obviously chemistry and continuity is hard enough to build as it is, but in 2024 with NIL being what it is, rumors and speculation and stuff being reported, how tough is it now, and how do you manage all of that?
It seems like we're the only ones that are having problems around the country. That's all I read. I haven't read anybody else around the country having these problems, but people are telling me that they're having the problems. So for me, it's going to always be in the forefront, because we know what we're dealing with. When a young man comes in and does an NIL contract or whatever, and something goes astray or whatever happens, then it affects the whole entire thing. That's just the era that we're in. Everyone knows that. And every team is definitely having those problems. And you just got to try your best to work through them, man. I can't imagine being a player worried more about the money side of it than the game side, but you just hope that you just keep teaching, especially with a new team every year, that they'll bond together to say, let's win, and then everything else will take care of itself.
Do you think it affects the mind?
Still, after all these years, you're obviously doing this because you love it, and you care about the community. Do you have the same excitement that you did when you were 15, looking forward to Memphis season starting, or when you were starting this?
Well, I really do, because it's my 7th year and I know more. When I first came in, I thought I was just going to come in and just everything that I knew from a basketball player, from the NBA, all the coaches that I played under, all the greats, that I could bring that element into here and then win. It's very hard. So the experience that I've had on the job is the only 6 years that I've had. So I'm learning on the fly and trying to be, but my reputation and my name and my history, and plus what I said, I want to win a national championship. I said we wanted all the smoke. In terms of young men, they understand that means we want to play everybody. That's our non-conference schedule. So that means we're not afraid to play anyone at any given time. So with saying that, man, it's the same excitement because I'm a competitor and I want to win. And going into my 7th year, I know way more than even what I even knew last year. So I've learned so much along the way. I didn't get an opportunity. And in the beginning, I didn't understand that if I was an assistant coach under Coach Tubby or Coach Josh or Coach Cal for 5, 6, 7 years, I don't think I have any of these mistakes that I've had in the first 6 years by a long shot.
Is it fun? Is it still fun?
It ain't fun. It's work. I'm not gonna lie. It's work, but it's fun knowing I get hyped like I'm about to play, but I do know that it's work. The side of it is not fun is that when you're from a hometown, when you play in this full circle, and people warn me about it, to just, to take the criticism that comes along with the job. Sometimes it's not only about the job. Sometimes it gets personal, and for a guy that's done for the city the whole time, sometimes it gets a little mentally tough, but I understand, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. So it's still the same for my energy and excitement, but it's work.
Just a little bit off track. Son got drafted by the G League.
Mm-hmm.
What did it mean for him to keep his dream within your professional ball line?
Well, it means a lot to me because I really wasn't expecting it. We've been working Jay. He went and worked out for the Dallas Mavericks G League team. And then all of a sudden he calls me and says, hey, I'm getting drafted tomorrow by the Capital City Go-Go's. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I'm proud, I'm happy, but in the back of my mind, I'm going, God, thank you. And Jaden and Cody know each other really well, and he knows Cody's system, and he's a great system player. So for me, if it's nothing other than living out a dream and then being in the front office in a couple years and just building relationships, that's great. But to be drafted, that's a dream come true.
So on the basketball side of things, again, you're in a kind of a unique situation where you have two guards that are starting for you that could be on ball at any given time. Mm-hmm. What have you noticed in the UNC game? And specifically, I would even ask about the Alabama game. You moved PJ onto the ball in the second half, and it felt pretty unstoppable. When do you pick and choose who's on ball and who's not, and what's most effective for your team?
I think the momentum of the game chose that. PJ was just dominant, and the team rode his wave. He was just riding his wave, and we had to get the ball in his hands. And he was doing what he was supposed to, making the right decisions, getting to the basket, getting fouled, making layups, making shots. And you ride that wave. If it would have been Kobe Rogers, same thing. If it would have been Tyrese Hunter, same thing. In the league, we're gonna feed the hot hand. And the ball got in PJ's hand because he did well against Carolina in the second half. He did well against Alabama in the second half. And he's kind of putting himself in a position to say, hey, I'm the guy that you can count on. Not taking anything away from the other guards, but that's why that ball was in his hands.
Do you think it would?
Would you say that PJ has done enough to become the primary ball handler at this point?
In our system, there's really not one primary ball handler, but he is the guy that he's proven himself the first two games to have that ball in his hands when we need a basket or we need a decision. Everyone else is going to have plenty of opportunities as well.
You think his ability to get into the paint will kind of alleviate some of those catch and dribble like those shots you were talking about, the three-point shots for Colby, for Tyrese, for where those guys are getting it out of the paint from PJ's hands?
I think what's happened is us playing against each other every day, we kind of got used to a rhythm. But when we played Carolina, they made us play differently. And I didn't put a lot of stuff in for them against Carolina. But against Alabama, we put in more sets, and we saw the sets that allowed them to get freer shots and better shots. We're just not making the jump shots, but we're getting in the paint. We call them paint decisions. We're not making the best paint decisions. There's guys that are open. We just got to find those guys, and those guys got to shoot with confidence.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach.
Oh, I need to talk about. Can I say something else?
Of course you can.
We need every fan to bring a toy for the first 3 games because those toys are going to go to the Salvation Army. We're going to do our fair share of giving toys, but we need the fans to just bring one toy. If you want to bring more, that's on you. We're going to give it after the 3rd game. We're going to gather them up, and then it's going to go to the Salvation Army. So, thank you.